Welcome to the live activation today. I wanted to do something a little different, and I have been, meditating on some things I wanted to bring into 2026 for everyone that, stuff that I've been working on personally in the last few months. So that's why I wanted to create this activation today. And really, what it's about is the idea of manifesting what it is we desire in our life and in our business by becoming the version of ourselves that already has it. So, some of you may have already heard this concept, and you may not, and that's okay. Because what I'm going to do today is I'm just going to do my best to transmit the frequency of this energy to all of you. So I just want to invite you to open up and allow the frequency of this, the energy of this concept to come into your energy system. So it's a transmission. Like I said, it's not a meditation, it's more active. So you don't have to do anything, but just listen and just see how it lands in your system. I feel like that information is actually really helpful when we understand things better, when we understand how they work. It makes a lot more sense to us, and it demystifies things. And I think, at least for me, that when you understand how something works, it makes it easier to apply it. I feel like for me, that's always been true. Just like if some of you use EFT tapping, and if that's the case, or any modality, it's really helpful when we can have some sort of science or research that can tell us why it works, because we know it works, right? I mean, the evidence is that, oh, I do it and then I get a result and it works. However, especially explaining it to other people, or allowing yourself to really be open to the fact that this isn't just a fluke, but there's a reason behind why it works, makes it more powerful. So because of that, what I want to do is I want to just really quickly touch on kind of the not I'm not going to explain too much science to you, but I want to explain that this is actually based on quantum principles and it's not woo woo. Okay, you guys know what woo woo is? No, I think woo woo's awesome. But I think for the most part, people might believe that something that is woo-woo is not based in science. It's not evidence-based, or it is mystical, or it's unexplainable and possibly questionable as to, whether it actually works or not, and shouldn't be taken seriously. That's my perception of the word woo-woo. What I want to say about it is, without getting overly involved in it, is that quantum mechanics, just in really simple terms, says that in the quantum field of possibilities, that because science shows us that particles behave as waves of possibility until they're measured. That's a core principle of quantum mechanics. That until it's observed, it doesn't collapse into a particle, right? So what that means to me is that what we're observing is what is created. So you're observing something, and then it becomes matter, it becomes created, it shows up in your world. And so if it's true, which, decide for yourself whether you believe this, that in the quantum field, every possibility exists all at the same time. Every single possible thing that could happen, every version of you that it could possibly exist is existing all at the same time. Meaning that there is a version of you that exists right now, as in there's no time, exists right now, all at the same time, the present moment, that already has what it is you desire. It's already done. Now, I think that a lot of times we hear in law of attraction and manifesting circles, you hear this a lot, right? That it's not about attracting what you want, it's about becoming that. It's about attracting what you are. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. And that's a pretty profound statement, right? Because what you are, what does that mean? Do you guys, what does that mean? What am I? Okay, well, what am I? Because I'm sure all of you have heard this idea that the I am is our being, right? The I am is our being. I mean, that's no little like exercise, law of attraction exercise, like just do some gratitude or something. But that's like, who am I? I mean, that is a big question to ask. And I think that's why we get really overwhelmed through some of these processes because, I mean, if I could just be anyone I wanted, who would I be? And do I even get to do that? And it becomes like this really deep kind of existential question. So I think that's why a lot of times we get kind of bogged down and we feel like you kind of get going where maybe you do some visualizations and you see some things, you make a vision board, you see some things you want. I want to have this house and I want to live in this place and I want to create this beautiful, prospering coaching business and I want to have, love in my life or whatever it is that you desire. And you focus on it for a while and then you just kind of start to feel like it's like I'm spinning my wheels, or you fall back into old patterns. You start to have feelings of doubt or disappointment that, am I doing something wrong here? Right? I'm visualizing every day. I'm doing my gratitude practice. I'm writing in my journal about all the things I'm grateful for. Uh-huh. Why isn't this working? And I think that's a really valid question to ask. And I know it's happened to me a lot until I really figured out this kind of key point, which is that the version of you that already has what you desire behaves differently than you do. The version of you that already has it makes different decisions, shows up differently every day. That doesn't mean that they're not you, but they have a different way of being, a different way of thinking because of the fact that they've made different decisions. They've done different things in their life, right? That's the part that's really hard to wrap your head around. When you start tuning into that version of you, you make those vision boards, you start imagining things, it feels off. And I think I'll tell you, I think this is a misunderstanding in manifesting because all of a sudden it feels off because it is like a mismatch in frequency, in energy with the current identity that you have, the current self even if you may not even be aware of it, but the current self, which is the past self, they're actually the same, has a way of being and a way of thinking that does not match that future self, that other version of you. So when you start tuning into that version of you and you start feeling it and you're kind of like, yeah, oh wow, I do feel it. And maybe you get some results and some things happen, but then it starts to feel really uncomfortable or you start to feel maybe even stressed or you maybe have some anxiety. Some things happen, some challenges. And the reason that this happens is because it actually isn't easy. When you start getting in alignment with the version of you that you want to become, it doesn't feel comfortable because it doesn't match your current identity. And your nervous system is keyed to that current identity, right? It's got a capacity for what you're currently running, the frequency you're currently running. And when you ask your nervous system to expand and hold something different, a different version of you, the nervous system will respond in a way that makes things, it feels unsafe sometimes. It's like, what, this doesn't feel right, or I'm doubting myself. And this is normal because it's not easy. It's actually not easy. It doesn't feel easy at first. People say, oh, if it's an aligned thing, it should feel effortless. Well, it will eventually, but it doesn't at first. And I think this is the thing I really want you to know is that it's not a signal that you're not aligned or you're not in alignment with this new version of you or the thing that you want. It's a signal that your nervous system is not feeling comfortable with expansion. Okay. I mean, of course, there's always the chance that a feeling of discomfort is an indication that you are completely out of alignment with something. That's always true. Okay. So I want to pre-frame that. But if we're talking about getting really in tune with if I had what I wanted already, how would I behave? What kind of decisions would I make? If I was the version of me that I already say had, and I want you all to think about something that you know you want right now that you don't have yet. Okay, think about it. It could be something small, something big, it doesn't matter. But think about that. And think about if I woke up in the morning and I was already this person, I already had what I wanted. How would I think? Would I make the same decisions? Who would I spend time with? How would I spend my time? What would I do in the morning when I woke up? How would I decide how I'm going to move through my day? Something that simple can be a real mismatch for what you're used to. So these larger identity shifts that are available to you through the quantum field, they take your nervous system takes time. You have to let your nervous system adjust over time. Okay, that's important. So I want to tell you that there is a way that you can do this that actually is pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward. And I know you've heard probably about gratitude practice a lot, and you probably are already doing it. But I want to sort of explain it in a different way because if you think about the fact that the version of you that already has what you want doesn't want what you have anymore because they have it already. Think about that. When you have something, you don't want it anymore because you have it. So the experience is that you already have it. And then you stop desiring it. And then what do you feel? Okay. Think about it. And even think about when you receive something that you've been wanting for a while, maybe even. What do you feel? What do you feel when you receive something you've been wanting? And then all of a sudden you have it, you've received it, right? You feel grateful, right? It's that simple. I know it's like we make things so complicated, but it is that simple. Is that, well, if it's so simple that all I have to do is tune into feeling grateful, why is it so hard? Why is it so hard? It's hard because we're trying to tell our current self that we have something that our current self doesn't. And the current self is like, no, we don't have that, right? That's the resistance that comes up. So you can visualize and then you can start to feel it, right? You can start to, oh, I feel this gratitude for something I've received, whether that's money, maybe it's money, maybe it's something specific, maybe it's new clients, maybe it's a trip that you wanted to take, maybe it's overcoming some sort of discomfort in your body, a health challenge, something like that. And then it resolves, and then you feel it. You're like, you feel the relief of it too. And I want you to also think about the word relief and gratitude as sort of being synonymous because what is gratitude anyway, other than just feeling the relief of receiving something? Okay, relief isn't always about pain, but relief is like the release. So there's tension when we need or want something, right? There's tension, especially it can be pain. If it's physical pain, maybe it's stress about money. You need money for something and you don't know if you're going to get it. And then you do some manifesting work and you receive some money. And then do you feel, oh, relief? Oh, thank goodness. I'm going to be able to pay that bill or whatever it is. What you're really actually looking for is relief. So let's just say that you are visualizing and imagining that you have what you already want. And then resistance comes up and a voice is like, yeah, but you know, you don't have that. And what you can do is instead of arguing with this voice, this resistance, you can actually just practice gratitude for something you do already have. And this is kind of a workaround to like work around that part of you because that part of you won't know the difference. It's like, okay, well, let's think about things we do have that we can be grateful for. Okay. And then when you do this, this part of you really can't argue. And it can be something as simple as, well, you know what? We have a bed to sleep in, a really soft bed. And yeah, okay. So that's a fact that we can't argue with. Even if there might be a part of you that says, yeah, but that's just, I mean, that's just a bed. Like we always have a bed. What's the big deal about that? It's not that big of a deal. Everyone has a bed. But then you can do a little work with like the contrast of what it would feel like to not have a bed. So you can do a little work like, well, you know what though, if I didn't have this bed, and some people don't have a bed, if I didn't have this bed, it'd be really uncomfortable if I had to lay on the floor. What if I didn't have this soft bed? And when you're able to do that, you're able to appreciate more what it is you do have that you're kind of used to having. And so it does create more gratitude. So think about if you didn't have a bed, okay, and you had to sleep on the floor, and then all of a sudden you got a bed. Would that not feel like relief? It's so simple, you guys. It's so simple because it doesn't matter whether it's gratitude for having a bed to sleep in, or it's gratitude for receiving $10,000, or for overcoming a health challenge, for being released from something that was causing you pain, or whether it was getting married to the love of your life, finding that soulmate. I mean, whatever it is. There's no difference, honestly, in the feeling, the gratitude feeling, whether it's a feeling of gratitude for something simple or small or something that we think of as big. And what you're doing is you're generating feelings of gratitude, and your body doesn't really know what you're feeling that for. Your body doesn't know it. And so it's like a way of, I don't want to use the word trick, but it is a little bit of a trick. You're sort of tricking that part of you that's resisting, because you start tuning into gratitude. And then what you can do is by doing that, you're generating more gratitude. You can more easily generate gratitude for something that's not currently in your 3D reality yet, because you just take that thing that it is, you want, and you sort of place that gratitude on top of it for the things you already have. You sort of put it together, and it's a little bit like cognitive dissonance too. It's like well, look over here. You're telling your brain, like, look over here at what we do have. And then you jump in with that thing that the brain says you don't have yet, and you mix it in there. And then it sort of it goes around, it hacks that resistance. So I just wanted to share that's a personal practice that I use. And I will tell you that I sometimes I go through stages. Sometimes I will, every night, I will diligently get in a journal and I will write, say I'll do 10 things. I'll write 10 things I'm grateful for one night. And then the next night, I'll write 20. And then the third night, I'll write 30. And the fourth night, I'll write 40. You see where I'm going? And I'll go maybe all the way to like 70. It's a lot. And even though it feels like I'm stretching, I'm like, oh my God, how can I find one more thing to be grateful for? I'm trying to fill out this list. But it really does something to your brain. And I noticed that when I do that, things happen. Like I'll end up manifesting things that maybe I have been trying to for a while. Things will pop into my reality all of a sudden, and I'll be like, wow. And then I realize that I really have been doing the work. And even though I haven't been focusing on that specific thing, I was focusing on gratitude in general for the things that were already there. And it really, really does work. I want to talk a little bit more about why this voice comes up, okay? The voice of resistance, the voice that doesn't want to actually expand into this version of you that has what you want. And I know many of you, you may already be doing inner child work, you may be doing parts work, you may have done some other kind of work where you've explored resistant parts of you. And I want to share that from my perspective of doing inner child work and what I personally practice and teach. The part of you that doesn't want to change, that doesn't want to expand, that feels unsafe, that is fearful, is only doing so because it wants to protect you from something bad happening. This is it. I mean, truly, no matter how a part of you, a voice in your head, or any way you might interpret it, shows up, whether it might be critical, might be doubting, it might be judging and criticizing, it might sound like a bully, it might sound even logical, but conservative. And we just need to stay safe, all the way to maybe being anxious or fearful and really appearing to be fearful. This always comes from a protection pattern. And I want you to think about these versions of ourself, right? If all these different versions of ourself exist in the field, and if quantum physics says that as viewed, so appears. Have you guys heard that? As viewed, so appears. That's like a quantum physics phrase. Is that when we are looking at the past, we look at the past, where do we look at the past? Well, it only exists in our mind. It exists in our body. It exists in our memories. And we can observe it. And so the parts of us that are holding the patterns of the past, you can call them inner child parts, you can call them whatever you want, it doesn't matter. They were developed in childhood. And so from childhood, we create our identity. We create our concept of ourself, right? That's what happens. That's how we become who we are, our habits, our behaviors, who we think we are in the world. It comes from our childhood experiences. So if that's true, then you can say that your identity is really tied to your childhood experiences, to your inner child parts. And so these inner child parts are holding a pattern in the field, in the quantum field, that holds your identity in place, your current identity. It is a trip. So, and I'm not just talking about like how you identify, okay, I'm a woman, I've got blonde hair, I'm, whatever age, I'm this ethnicity, I have this background. I mean, yes, that can also be identity. That's part of identity, but I'm really talking about what's underneath that. I'm talking about what's even underneath some limiting beliefs you may be aware of that you already have. But at the core beliefs that were created in childhood, which many of you may already be aware of because you've probably done some deep work. If you're here, you've probably done some deep work, right? And you probably know that you've got some core beliefs, that this holds your identity in place. Even though maybe you have done some deep work and you've expanded to a point, then you start imagining this version of you now that has something that you want. And then you start trying to be that person externally. Maybe you see others and you're like, okay, I want to be like her. She's got X, Y, and Z. I want to be more like that. Or I know that people that have X, Y, and Z do X, Y, and Z. That's how they got there, right? Oh, have you ever heard that like successful CEOs get up at 4 in the morning and they meditate and then they exercise and then they drink a smoothie and blah, 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 blah. And that's how they got to where they are. Sure, I mean, it might be true, but those are behaviors that are driven by identity. And if you try to put those behaviors on yourself, those external things, and you maybe could do it for a little while, but eventually, if you don't address your inner world, the identity of who you think you are, those behaviors will not be sustainable. They'll start to feel stressful. You won't be able to maintain it. And then you'll probably go into a cycle of shame and guilt. Am I right? You'll go into a cycle of shame and guilt for not being able to, continue to sustain those behaviors that you wanted to have, whatever they are. Whether it's something as simple as maybe it is an exercise routine. Maybe it is, if you're building a coaching business, maybe it's showing up and posting online, or maybe it's just doing a little work to get clear on your ideal client so that you can finally get that website up. These simple things, reaching out to people, making them offers. These are behaviors that feel hard. They feel hard if you are forcing yourself to do these things and you haven't actually done the identity work. I'll just tell you a personal story is that when I started to do a lot of deep work, I found a lot of beliefs, a lot of limiting beliefs. But I got to a place maybe about 3 or 4 years ago where I got to like a really deep core belief that I believe it came from like when I was born. Because of the fact that I was born with a birth defect, I had a problem with my eyes. I was born with a birth defect where my eyes were crossed into my nose because the ligament on the outer part of the eye was missing. Some kind of a birth defect. It has a name. I don't remember what it is. And I had to have a couple surgeries when I was a baby. I don't remember any of this, obviously, but I do have a sense of that I must have heard something, and I don't even have access to the memory, but I know that I felt like there's something wrong with me. I'm defective. And I was doing some work with another practitioner once and doing some tapping on this core belief, and I know when it came up, and I actually said those words, it came into my consciousness, I just got whoosh, a big rush of, emotion, and my sun went up really high. And I knew that that was a core belief. I did a lot of work on it. What I know now is that has been part of my core identity for a long time until I became aware of it. And even when I became aware of it, I still had to do a lot of work around it. But I'm telling you this because I want you to understand that that is what holds your current identity intact. That is why it is so hard sometimes to shift and change. What I want to recommend is that don't think to yourself, because I know you and you're probably thinking, "Oh boy, now I have to do all this deep work before I can manifest what I want." It's going to take a long time, right? Oh crap, I've already been doing this work for a long time and now I have to do more. I have to find more core beliefs. No, that's not true either. Because you know what? You can do like these kind of parallel tracks at the same time. That's the beauty of it, okay? I believe if you're only trying to change your behaviors outside of yourself and external behaviors, you're going to have a hard time. But if you're addressing both at the same time, you're going to get there faster. Because I don't believe that it's so linear. I don't believe this like, okay, let's plod along and we're going to plod along and we're going to do the work, and then after however long, then maybe we're going to get a little farther and we get a little farther. And that's like an old paradigm of thinking. Because in the quantum universe, there's no such thing as time. You can collapse possibilities quickly, okay? And you have to be open to it. So that doesn't mean you're not going to still do the inner work. It doesn't mean you're not going to address the patterns that hold the current identity in place. It just means be open to the possibility that things can shift as quickly as you want them to, because it's our beliefs that create our reality. If you believe it's going to take a long time, if you believe it's going to be hard, if you believe you're going to have to suffer, then that will be your experience. If you're open to, actually, maybe this could be joyful, maybe it doesn't have to take a long time. Maybe I could approach it with curiosity. Maybe it's going to be fun. Maybe the journey itself is going to be part of the process. Then that's going to be your experience. It doesn't mean you won't have challenges sometimes. It just means that when challenges arise, you're going to have a different response to those challenges, which is going to resolve them faster, right? It's going to resolve them a lot faster because you're going to be the version of you that has actually already worked out that challenge. And I want to all just let you consider that future version of you that's right there in the field actually does know how you overcame all these challenges. So this idea of I have to figure it out, I have to figure it out. That's mine. That's just mind. I have to figure it out. That's linear time. If you can be open to the idea that if I can tune into the version of me that already has overcome this problem, your mind is going to be open to that. And if you're able to release stress and you're able to feel regulated, you're doing your tapping, you're doing your modality, so your nervous system is regulated, and you're allowing your nervous system to expand and have more capacity, then your brain is going to change and you're going to be able to perceive the answers to challenges more quickly. You're going to be able to overcome them more quickly. And that's how that works. I don't know if you've ever experienced this before where, when you just finally let go of a problem, have you been like obsessing over a problem, something you need to solve, and then you finally let go of it, and then you're just in the shower the next morning, you go, oh my God, and it just drops in. Where does that come from? Where do you think that comes from? I mean, I don't know where it comes from, but I believe personally that it does come from the version of me that already knows the answer. Call it a future version, a future self, the version of me that's already solved this problem. Can drop the answer in if I can just allow it. All right, so what I'd like for you to do now, just to kind of start wrapping up this session today, because I didn't mean to keep you here a really long time, but I've got some kind of reflection questions for you. So think about this, all right? Whenever you get up in the morning, whatever practices you already have, I'm going to invite you to also ask a question to yourself and say, what does the version of me who already has XYZ desire want to express today? What does the version of me that already has this want to express? Ask yourself that question and just let the answer come. It may not come right away, but trust your inner promptings. That might be something like, well, today I want to express just being at ease. Like maybe the old version of me, the version of me I'm stepping out of, would feel the need to push myself into productivity to get something done. But the version of me that already has XYZ actually knows that taking a break and resting is how I need to express today. That's actually the best thing for me. You've got to tune into that and feel it, right? That's just an example. I'm just making that up. Another question you can ask, which is a little different angle, is what is my part in this? Think about your subconscious mind and your conscious mind, right? You know already, probably, if you're here, you already know that your conscious mind probably operates like 1% of everything in your world. Your conscious mind can only conceive of like 1% of everything that's going on. Everything else is controlled by the subconscious mind. Like 95, I don't know if it's 95% of everything that's going on in your body, everything in your environment you're perceiving is being run by or perceived by your subconscious mind. 1% is all your conscious mind can handle. It's not very much. So think of it like this. Think of your future self, the version of you that has what you want, the universe, source energy that's connected to that version of you has its part. It's going to do its job. And there's only this one small percentage that you need to fulfill. So ask yourself, what is my part in this today? What is my part? Instead of trying to take it all on yourself. And just make it really simple. My part might be saying no to something that might seem like an opportunity. It might have been in the past, but doesn't align with this version of me anymore. Maybe it's it could be a group of friends that your past self wants to hang out with, but maybe you've outgrown the conversations, maybe you've outgrown what it is that they value. I'm just making that up too. That could be that. Saying no to something that doesn't match your new frequency might feel uncomfortable at first, but you want to trust that. It could also be an action. It could be taking an action. What is my part in this today? Well, my part is, okay, I feel inspired to show up and maybe I'm going to create a little bit of content in my business. I'm going to share something I'm inspired to share. And I'm just going to put it out there, however that is for you. Whether it's social media, maybe it's an email. And then let that just be my part. And trust that I'm doing my part and the universe is taking care of the rest. I promise you that when you're building a coaching business, it can get very overwhelming, and maybe you already know this, of all the things that you have to do to make it work. It can get really overwhelming, and even just any kind of business. And I can tell you that since I've gone from being a personal brand and a coach that's kind of focused on, private sessions and things like that, all the way to having a company now with multiple things going on and a group program and courses and all kinds of things, that sometimes I can get really overwhelmed with all the moving pieces. Even though I have help, I can get really overwhelmed and it can stop me. And I've been overwhelmed before, but I can tell you that what has allowed me to keep moving forward and getting things done is that I just focus on what I know I can handle today. Like, this is my part. I know today I can do X, Y, and Z. And then I trust that the rest is going to fall into place. And it always does if I stay in that frequency. But if I go into the frequency, oh my God, I can't do this all. It's too overwhelming. I can't handle it all. And I feel like it's all on me. You can't have the capacity to do that. No one was meant to hold it all. You were meant to receive help. You're meant to receive support in whatever way that comes. Be open to receiving. It's different. That's a different frequency than I've got to figure it out. I got to make it happen. All right, well, I am going to let you all go now. Thank you all so much. And I hope to see you next time. All right. Have a beautiful day, my friends.